On my daughter's 8th birthday, my parents accidentally mailed me proof they'd been lying for 3 years. Interesting thing about family secrets. Sometimes they don't unravel through confessions. Sometimes they unravel through embroidery. Pink thread. Curved cursive stitching. One wrong name sewn carefully into the collar of a little girl's birthday dress. And suddenly, every sacrifice you made for the people who raised you starts rearranging itself into evidence. Interesting, honestly. Because betrayal rarely arrives as one devastating moment. Usually, it arrives as 1,000 tiny moments your nervous system quietly filed away before your brain finally catches up. My name is Myra Brandt. 34 years old. Certified public accountant. Married. Mother of 1. And professionally trained to notice when numbers don't match the story people are telling. Interesting thing about accountants. We spend our lives chasing inconsistencies for strangers while ignoring them inside our own families. For almost 3 years, I funded my parents' survival. Mortgage payments. Medical bills. Insurance premiums. Emergency repairs. Small crises arriving through phone calls at carefully chosen times. And every single dollar. Every sacrifice. Every delayed vacation and postponed purchase. Rested on one belief. That my father was sick. And my sister was gone. Interesting, honestly. Because love becomes dangerous once guilt learns how to wear its face. The morning of Lily's birthday started at 5:12 a.m. Dark outside. Coffee brewing. Streamers tangled around my wrist while I stood on a kitchen chair trying to tape butterflies across the ceiling. Daniel was outside hiding scavenger hunt clues inside mason jars. And my daughter, my brilliant chaotic 8-year-old daughter, was already awake asking if monarch butterflies technically counted as poisonous. Interesting thing about children. They ask fascinating questions at exactly the moments adults are trying hardest not to fall apart. Mommy. Pause. If a butterfly eats poison and a bird eats the butterfly. Another pause. Does the bird get poisoned too? I laughed softly from the kitchen chair. It can. Whoa. Then immediately. Can I help with the cupcakes? Interesting, honestly. Because children move through wonder so quickly it makes adult anxiety feel almost embarrassing. Lily had Daniel's curiosity. My focus. And a habit of tilting her head while thinking that looked painfully like my sister Emily. That part mattered later. At the time, it just hurt quietly in ways I didn't examine too closely. Interesting thing about unresolved family dynamics. They survive longest inside the comparisons nobody challenges aloud. My parents called 4 days before the party. My mother's voice already carrying apology before she even spoke. Honey. Tiny pause. Your father's cardiology follow-up got moved. Not scheduled. Moved. Interesting, honestly. Because rehearsed lies usually sound overly prepared emotionally. We're devastated we'll miss it. I stood in the Target parking lot holding paper plates shaped like butterflies while balancing my phone against my shoulder. That's okay. Automatic answer. Conditioned answer. The answer daughters like me learn before adulthood fully finishes forming them. Interesting thing about emotionally responsible daughters. Eventually they apologize for needs nobody else even notices. We sent Lily something special though, Mom added quickly. She's going to love it. I smiled automatically. She'll be excited. And honestly, I believed her. Because despite everything, despite the money, despite Emily, despite 30 years of uneven love dressed up as family normalcy, some small broken part of me still wanted my parents to mean well. Interesting, honestly. Because children don't stop wanting good parents just because they become adults. The package arrived at 12:08 p.m. UPS driver. White cardboard box. Pink tissue paper poking through the seam. My mother's handwriting on the label. Curved. Deliberate. The exact same handwriting that used to sign my report cards before handing them back with corrections circled in red pen. Interesting thing about memory. Sometimes handwriting alone can reactivate entire childhood emotions instantly. I set the package beside the present table and kept frosting cupcakes. Vanilla buttercream. Purple sprinkles. Lily running through the living room wearing butterfly wings made from construction paper and tape. Daniel pretending not to notice the tape sticking to his socks. Ordinary happiness. The dangerous kind. Interesting honestly. Because life-changing betrayals almost always interrupt completely normal afternoons first. I should probably explain my family before the dress appears. Otherwise none of this makes emotional sense. Emily Brandt. My older sister? Was the kind of person rooms reorganized themselves around automatically. Loud laugh. Perfect eyeliner. Chaotic confidence mistaken for charisma by people who didn't have to clean up after it. Interesting thing about golden children. Families mistake emotional intensity for importance frighteningly often. Emily got attention. I got responsibility. Emily got forgiveness. I got expectations. By age 14, I knew exactly how our house worked. If Emily forgot homework, Mom drove it to school. If I forgot homework, Mom asked why I lacked discipline. Interesting honestly. Because favoritism becomes most damaging once children start adjusting their personalities around it. When I needed soccer cleats at 14, my mother made me write an essay explaining why I deserved them. 3 paragraphs. Front and back. No exaggeration. I remember sitting at the kitchen table while Emily watched MTV upstairs. Need isn't enough, Mom said while reading my paper. You need to learn gratitude too. Interesting thing about conditional love. It turns ordinary childhood needs into negotiations. That same week, Emily got a brand new phone because hers was embarrassingly outdated. No essay required. I stopped asking for things after that. Not dramatically. Quietly. The way neglected kids usually do. Interesting honestly. Because emotional survival often looks like maturity from the outside. I got a job bussing tables at 15. Opened my own checking account at 16. Community college. Night classes for my CPA certification. Full-time work during tax season inside a tiny office that smelled like carpet cleaner and burnt coffee. Every single thing I built without help. And somewhere along the way, I made a terrible emotional mistake. I started believing usefulness and love were the same thing. Interesting thing about parentified daughters. We often mistake being needed for being valued. Meanwhile, Emily detonated her 20s like a controlled demolition project. Boyfriends. Failed business plans. Credit card debt. Emergency wire transfers at 2 a.m. One disastrous wellness brand involving imported crystal water bottles and a website that lasted 11 weeks. Interesting honestly. Because some families treat recklessness like personality instead of accountability. My parents funded every collapse. Every restart. Every fresh beginning. Until finally. 3 years ago, Emily vanished. No warning. No forwarding address. Just one text message sent to my mother at 2:11 a.m. I need space. Don't look for me. Interesting thing about selective grief. Some people mourn disappearances differently depending on which child leaves. My mother collapsed emotionally. Or seemed to. Locked herself in Emily's old bedroom for hours. Stopped cooking. Stopped sleeping. My father wandered through the house like someone carrying invisible weight in his chest. And me? I stepped in. Of course I did. Interesting, honestly. Because emotionally reliable daughters become family infrastructure before they even realize it's happening. That's when the money started. First small. Then constant. Mortgage assistance. Insurance premiums. Dad's heart medication. Property taxes. Emergency plumbing repairs. Every crisis arriving through my mother's voice already cracked with exhaustion. Honey. Pause. Your father's heart can't wait. Interesting thing about manipulation. The most effective version always contains partial truth. Dad's heart condition was real. That's what made the lies work. I set up autopay. $1,200 monthly toward the mortgage. $400 monthly for supplemental insurance. Phone plan. Extra emergencies every few months. And every single time. Mom said the same thing. You're the only one we can count on. Interesting, honestly. Because praise becomes addictive once it's the only emotional affection you reliably receive. Daniel questioned things sometimes. Not aggressively. Carefully. The way loving husbands do when they suspect their wives are drowning quietly. Your dad's insurance should cover most of this. It's complicated, I'd answer automatically. And he'd nod. But not convincingly. Interesting thing about healthy people. They notice dysfunction long before the people raised inside it do. Then Lily happened. And suddenly, my mother found a new emotional project. At first it looked harmless. Too harmless. That should have warned me. Lily reminds me so much of Emily. First casually. Then constantly. Interesting, honestly. Because obsession usually enters conversations disguised as affection first. Emily used to smile exactly like that. Emily loved pink too. Emily braided her hair this way at 8. Every visit. Another comparison. Another tiny stitch connecting my daughter to the ghost of my sister. I ignored it. Because admitting it felt insane. And honestly? Because part of me still wanted my mother to love my daughter normally. Interesting thing about generational damage. Children raised on conditional affection become dangerously hopeful parents later. The birthday party ended around 4 o'clock. Backyard sticky with melted popsicles and burst balloons. Daniel washing frosting off patio chairs. Lily sitting cross-legged on the living room floor sorting presents into categories. Books. Art supplies. Science things. Interesting, honestly. Because 8-year-olds organize joy with the seriousness adults reserve for taxes and funerals. Then she reached for the white box. Grandma's present. Her whole face lit up. Pure excitement. Pure trust. The kind children offer adults before adults teach them caution. She tore the tissue paper carefully. Inside. A pink dress. Peter Pan collar. Pearl buttons. Soft cotton skirt perfect for twirling. Lily gasped happily. It's beautiful. She held it against herself and spun once through the living room. Then. She stopped. Interesting thing about intuition. Children notice wrongness much faster than adults give them credit for. Her fingers touched the inside collar. Tiny embroidered cursive stitched in white thread. And suddenly her expression changed. What is this, Mommy? I crossed the room slowly. Took the collar between my fingers. Read the name once. Then again. Not because I misunderstood it. Because my nervous system needed extra seconds before allowing the truth inside. Interesting, honestly. Because some betrayals feel physically impossible at first. The name sewn into my daughter's birthday dress wasn't Lily. It was Emily, The name sewn into my daughter's birthday dress wasn't Lily. It was Emily. Interesting thing about devastating moments. Your body usually understands them several seconds before your mind does. My fingers froze against the collar. Soft pink fabric. White embroidery thread. Emily. Curved cursive stitching sewn carefully into the neckline like someone had practiced writing the name lovingly for years. Not accidental. Not rushed. Intentional. Interesting honestly. Because mistakes rarely arrive gift-wrapped in precision. Lily tilted her head beside me. Why does Grandma think my name is Emily? Children ask catastrophic questions with horrifying innocence. No build-up. No emotional cushioning. Just truth walking directly into the room barefoot. Interesting thing about motherhood. Sometimes your entire job becomes controlling your face while your nervous system catches fire. I smiled automatically. Too quickly. The kind of smile adults invent while emotionally free-falling. She probably mixed up the order, bug. Daniel looked up from the kitchen sink immediately. Not dramatic. Not suspicious. Alert. Huge difference. Interesting honestly. Because healthy people notice danger through pattern disruption before words fully explain it. I turned the collar over again. Searching for another tag. Another explanation. Anything. Nothing. Just Emily. Stitched permanently into the fabric. And suddenly, dozens of tiny memories started surfacing all at once. Not complete memories. Fragments. The dangerous kind. Interesting thing about buried intuition. It waits patiently until one undeniable detail unlocks everything behind it. Mommy? Lily touched my wrist gently. Can I still wear it? That question nearly destroyed me. Because children always try protecting adult feelings before adults realize they're doing it. Of course you can. My voice sounded normal somehow. I still don't know how. Interesting honestly. Because trauma teaches women performance long before it teaches healing. Lily sprinted upstairs to try the dress on. Butterfly wings still bouncing behind her. And the second she disappeared, Daniel dried his hands slowly and said, "That's not normal." Simple sentence. Quiet sentence. The kind husbands use when they've been holding larger concerns privately for a long time already. Interesting thing about good marriages. Sometimes love sounds like someone finally saying the thing you've been afraid to admit yourself. I sat down slowly at the dining room table. The dress pooled across my lap. Pink cotton. White pearls. Emily. I know. Daniel leaned against the kitchen counter watching me carefully. Not pushing. Waiting. The way emotionally safe people do. Interesting honestly. Because manipulation trains you to defend others automatically while healthy people wait for your actual thoughts instead. Then quietly. Almost too casually. He asked. How much money did you send your parents last month? I closed my eyes briefly. Not because I didn't know. Because I knew exactly. 3,400. Silence. Huge silence. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck slowly. That's more than our mortgage. Interesting thing about financial manipulation. It survives longest when disguised as moral responsibility. I stared at the embroidered name again. And suddenly, another memory surfaced. Christmas 2 years earlier. Mom watching Lily decorate cookies. Smiling strangely. She has Emily's hands. Another memory. Easter brunch. Mom brushing Lily's hair behind her ear. Emily did that exact thing when she was little. Then another. And another. Interesting honestly. Because once patterns become visible, Your entire past starts reorganizing itself around them. Do you think? I stopped. Couldn't finish it. Didn't want to. Daniel did it for me. Do I think your mother's emotionally replacing Emily with Lily? Direct. Gentle. Brutal. Huge difference. Interesting thing about emotionally healthy people. They say painful truths carefully instead of avoiding them entirely. I laughed once. Sharp. Uncomfortable. That sounds insane. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Another thing healthy people do. They don't rush to rescue you from difficult realizations. Interesting, honestly. Because clarity usually requires silence first. Then finally. Does it? And honestly? That question terrified me more than the dress itself. Because somewhere deep down, beneath the money, beneath the guilt, beneath 34 years of emotional conditioning, part of me already knew the answer. Interesting thing about denial. It's rarely about not seeing the truth. Usually, it's about understanding exactly how much the truth will cost once admitted. Lily came downstairs wearing the dress 10 minutes later. Spinning. Laughing. Pink skirt floating around her knees. It twirls. Pure joy. Pure trust. And suddenly, my mother's manipulation became unbearable in an entirely new way. Because it wasn't hurting me anymore. It was reaching for my daughter now. Interesting, honestly. Because women tolerate emotional damage to themselves far longer than they tolerate it happening to their children. That night after Lily fell asleep, Daniel opened a spreadsheet. Which sounds deeply unromantic until you understand marriage properly. Interesting thing about stable love. Sometimes devotion looks like someone helping you face reality with numbers. He rotated the laptop toward me. 3 years of transfers. Highlighted. Categorized. Mortgage payments. Medical expenses. Insurance support. Emergency assistance. Vacation bailout labeled Dad Recovery Retreat. I stared at the totals while my stomach slowly tightened. $147,000. 3 years. Interesting, honestly. Because manipulation becomes much harder to minimize once math enters the conversation. That can't be right. It is. Daniel's voice stayed calm. Not accusatory. Worried. Huge difference. Interesting thing about supportive partners. They help you uncover abuse without humiliating you for missing it. I scrolled slowly. Thousands. Then tens of thousands. Tiny sacrifices I barely remembered making because each individual crisis sounded reasonable at the time. New furnace. Dad's cardiac imaging. Roof damage. Medication coverage gap. Interesting, honestly. Because emotionally manipulated people rarely lose everything at once. They lose it incrementally through compassion. Then Daniel clicked another tab. And my entire world shifted sideways. Property tax records. Public county database. My parents' mortgage status. Paid in full. 2 years earlier. I stopped breathing for a second. Actually stopped. Interesting thing about betrayal. Sometimes the worst part isn't the lie. It's realizing how long people maintained eye contact while telling it. No. I leaned closer to the screen. There has to be another property. There isn't. Daniel turned the laptop slightly. Highlighted transfer records. Tax history. Deed records. Everything clean. Everything public. Everything real. Interesting, honestly. Because facts feel almost offensive once they contradict family mythology. The mortgage was cleared after your aunt sold her lake house. Pause. She transferred money to your parents. I stared at the screen while childhood memories kept surfacing like debris after a flood. Mom crying over bills. Dad talking about losing the house. Late-night calls filled with panic. You're the only one we can count on. Interesting thing about emotional manipulation. It often relies on making one child feel uniquely responsible for everyone else surviving. My hands started shaking slightly. Not dramatic trembling. Controlled shaking. The kind your body does while your brain tries desperately to preserve normalcy. There's more, Daniel said quietly. Of course there was. Interesting, honestly. Because lies rarely travel alone. He clicked another document. Instagram screenshots. Public photos. Location tags. Miami. Scottsdale. Nashville. Then finally, a photo posted 11 months earlier. My mother smiling beside Emily. Both holding margaritas. Caption. Finally reunited with my girl Redheart. I stared at the screen so long my eyes started watering automatically. Not crying yet. Shock. Huge difference. Interesting thing about traumatic discoveries. Your body often mistakes devastation for confusion initially. She never disappeared. Daniel said nothing. Didn't need to. Because suddenly every missing piece locked into place at once. The comparisons. The dress. The money. My mother attaching Emily's identity to Lily slowly over 3 years while secretly remaining in contact with the actual Emily the entire time. Interesting, honestly. Because some betrayals become monstrous only after all the separate pieces finally connect together. I looked back at the embroidered collar lying beside the laptop. Emily. Not accidental. Not sentimental. Replacement. And for the first time in my adult life, I allowed myself to think something I'd spent 34 years emotionally forbidden from thinking. My mother did not love me. Not really. She loved what I provided. Huge difference. Interesting thing about emotionally neglected daughters. Realizing the relationship was transactional hurts far worse than realizing it was unfair. I sat motionless for almost a full minute. Then quietly. So quietly I barely recognized my own voice. I asked. How long do you think she's been planning this? How long do you think she's been planning this? Interesting thing about devastating realizations. Sometimes the scariest answer isn't yes. It's realizing the behavior was organized. Daniel didn't respond immediately. He closed the laptop halfway. Not hiding it. Protecting me from seeing too much too quickly. The way trauma nurses lower voices around fresh injuries. Interesting, honestly. Because healthy love recognizes emotional blood loss before the wounded person does. I don't know, he said carefully. Pause. But I don't think this started with the dress. No. Neither did I. That was the terrifying part. Interesting thing about emotional grooming. The visible behavior usually begins long after the psychological groundwork already exists. I barely slept that night. Not dramatic insomnia. Worse. Functional exhaustion. The kind where your body lies still while your brain quietly reorganizes 34 years of memories into a completely different emotional history. Interesting, honestly. Because once manipulation becomes visible, your childhood starts replaying itself like evidence instead of nostalgia. 2:13 a.m. I stood barefoot in the kitchen drinking water while staring at Lily's birthday dress folded across the counter. Emily. The stitched name looked different at night somehow. Colder. More deliberate. And suddenly, another memory surfaced. Lily's 5th birthday. Mom arriving early with a pink scrapbook. 37 pages. Every single page comparing Lily to Emily at the same age. Same smile. Same energy. Same spirit. At the time. Everyone laughed. Interesting, honestly. Because toxic behavior survives longest when disguised as sentimental affection. Then another memory. Thanksgiving 18 months earlier. Mom pulling Lily aside after dinner. Whispering while fixing her hair. Your grandma's special girl. Not strange alone. But now I remembered something else. Lily's answer. More special than Mommy? And my mother smiling. Not correcting it. Smiling. Interesting thing about emotional triangulation. Children recognize favoritism long before adults admit it exists. I sat down slowly at the kitchen table. The same kitchen where I'd balanced budgets for years trying to save people who were never actually drowning. And for the first time, I stopped asking whether I was overreacting. Interesting, honestly. Because clarity begins the moment self-doubt stops leading every conversation inside your head. The next morning, my mother called at 8:07 a.m. Bright voice. Too bright. The kind of cheerfulness people weaponize when they assume reality still belongs to them. Did Lily love the dress? I stared at my phone for 3 full rings before answering. Interesting thing about confrontation. Your body always knows before your mouth whether the relationship can survive truth. She liked it. That pink is so Emily. There it was again. Automatic. Reflexive. Like my daughter no longer existed independently inside my mother's mind. Interesting, honestly. Because obsession eventually replaces individuality completely. I walked toward the living room window slowly. Watched Lily building a blanket fort while Daniel pretended not to notice she'd stolen every pillow in the house. She noticed the embroidery. Silence. Tiny silence. But enough. Interesting thing about liars. Microseconds become evidence once you know where to look. Oh. Yes. Another pause. Then softly. She asked why Grandma put Emily's name in her dress. Longer silence this time. Heavy silence. And suddenly, I understood something terrifying. My mother wasn't embarrassed. She was calculating. Interesting, honestly. Because manipulative people don't react emotionally first. They react strategically. Then finally she laughed lightly. Oh goodness. It was probably an old sample order from the embroidery shop. Too fast. Too smooth. Prepared. Interesting thing about rehearsed explanations. They arrive before genuine confusion ever has time to exist. I closed my eyes briefly. Not to calm down. To listen. Really listen. Because for 34 years, I'd heard my mother emotionally. Never analytically. Huge difference. You still use the same embroidery shop from Emily's dance recitals? Pause. Yes. Interesting, honestly. Because lies collapse fastest once someone knowledgeable asks simple questions calmly. The shop closed 4 years ago. Silence. Absolute silence. I'd Googled it at 6:11 that morning. Interesting thing about accountants. Once suspicion activates, research becomes reflex. Mom recovered quickly. Too quickly. Well, maybe they outsourced. Mom. First interruption. Possibly in my entire adult life. The silence afterward felt enormous. Interesting, honestly. Because boundaries sound physically loud inside families built around compliance. What's really happening? There it was. Finally. No cushioning. No emotional caretaking. Just truth standing in the middle of the room demanding oxygen. My mother inhaled slowly. Then exhaled through her nose. The sound of someone reorganizing tactics in real time. You've always been dramatic. Interesting thing about manipulative parents. When facts fail, they attack perception next. I'm not discussing drama. It was a sewing mistake. Then why are you still talking to Emily? Silence again. Huge silence. The kind silence becomes when both people suddenly realize the conversation has crossed a permanent line. Interesting, honestly. Because dysfunctional families survive through unspoken agreements about what nobody is allowed to acknowledge aloud. Who told you that? Not denial. Not confusion. Exposure. There it was. Interesting thing about guilty people. They often reveal the truth accidentally by skipping the innocent reaction entirely. I saw the photos. Nothing. Then quietly. She's your sister. That sentence landed harder than the lies somehow. Because it revealed the real issue instantly. Not the secrecy. Not the money. Entitlement. Interesting, honestly. Because manipulative people rarely believe access to others should require honesty first. You told me she disappeared. She needed privacy. You let me believe she was gone for 3 years. She didn't want contact. I laughed once. Sharp. Disbelieving. She didn't want contact with me. Another silence. And suddenly, everything became painfully simple. Interesting thing about family systems. Once the illusion cracks, the hierarchy underneath becomes impossible not to see. Emily remained protected. Always. No matter the damage. No matter the cost. And me? I existed to stabilize consequences. Financially. Emotionally. Practically. The responsible daughter. The dependable daughter. The useful daughter. Interesting, honestly. Because some parents confuse reliability with infinite emotional supply. Your father's condition has been extremely stressful. There it was. The pivot. Health. Guilt. Responsibility. Same script. Different emergency. I leaned against the kitchen counter, suddenly exhausted. Dad's mortgage has been paid off for 2 years. Silence. I'll never forget that silence. Not because it was dramatic. Because it was exhausted. Like she was finally tired of maintaining the architecture. Interesting thing about long-term lies. Eventually even the liars become fatigued carrying them. You don't understand everything. Then explain it. Nothing. No explanation. Because explanations require logic. And this had never been logical. It had been emotional economics. Take from Myra. Protect Emily. Repeat until stable. Interesting, honestly. Because toxic family roles operate exactly like financial systems. Someone always pays for everyone else's comfort. Then quietly. So quietly I almost missed it. My mother said. You were always stronger. I stopped breathing for a second. Not because the sentence was kind. Because it was the closest thing to truth she'd said in years. Interesting thing about emotionally neglected daughters. People justify exploiting them by calling them resilient first. You thought that meant I needed less? No. Yes. My voice cracked finally. First time. Not rage. Grief. Huge difference. You thought because I survived things quietly. Pause. I wouldn't notice you choosing her over me forever. Silence. Heavy silence. And somewhere upstairs? Lily laughed loudly inside her blanket fort. Bright. Safe. Still untouched by all of this. For now. Interesting, honestly. Because motherhood changes the meaning of betrayal completely once children enter the blast radius. Then my mother said the sentence that finally destroyed whatever remained of my denial. She reminds me of Emily before everything went wrong. I felt cold instantly. Not emotional cold. Physical cold. The kind your body experiences around genuine danger. Interesting thing about replacement psychology. Eventually the person stops seeing the child. They only see the emotional void they want filled. She's 8. She's family. She's my daughter. Silence again. Then softly. Almost wounded. My mother whispered. You have no idea what it's like losing a child. And there it was. Finally. The real truth underneath everything. Not grief over Emily disappearing. Grief over losing control of Emily. Huge difference. Interesting honestly. Because some parents mourn obedience more than connection. I ended the call 3 minutes later. Not dramatically. Not with yelling. Just quiet finality. The kind adults use when they suddenly understand a relationship correctly for the first time. Then I stood alone in the kitchen holding my phone while one horrifying realization settled fully into place. My mother wasn't trying to reconnect our family. She was trying to recreate my sister. Using my daughter to why mother wasn't trying to reconnect our family. She was trying to